Welcome to From Pitch to Pontoon.
Lisa.
I'm Calum and welcome back to From Pitch to Pontoon. This week we're recording a special 4th of July episode and asking what's next for American marinas. For boaters across the US, 4th of July is one of the biggest weekends of the year. It means more time on the water, packed docks, full slips, busy fuel docks, family celebrations, and marinas right at the centre of the action. But for marinas, it is also one of the biggest tests of the year. Behind that holiday atmosphere, teams are managing everything from arrivals, reservations, customer questions, service requests, payments, fuel, staffing, availability, and all the moving parts that come with peak demand.
And that's what we're going to explore today, because a weekend like the 4th of July does not only show how busy a marina can get, it also reveals how connected the operations really are, where your teams have visibility, and where they need those processes to start stretching out. So today we'll be talking about the 4th of July and what it means for American marinas and obviously for Americans, peak periods, and reveal the way operators are working on what might come next as that US market continues to grow.
Today we're joined by Mikkel Oldenburg, Chief Revenue Officer at Elite Dynamics, and Jamie Gilman, who's recently joined Elite Dynamics as our US-based Business Development Manager. Jamie brings experience from the US marina and marine industry, and he'll be sharing what he's seeing and hearing from operators across the market. Jamie and Mikkel, welcome to From Pitch to Pontoon. How are you both doing today?
Very good. Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Very excited to have you both. So Jamie, before we get into 4th of July, let's introduce you properly. You've joined Elite Dynamics as our first US-based BDM, which is a big step for us as we continue to grow our presence in the American marina market. Can you tell us a bit about your background and your experience in the US marina and marine industry?
Absolutely. So I have spent nearly 20 years now in the marine industry here in the US. Right after college, I went to work for a boat manufacturer in Rhode Island and ran their institutional sales. After that, I started and ran 2 small boat retail businesses, one in Connecticut and one in Texas. And as part of that, traveled across the entire country every year, managing a charter fleet, providing gear and charter boats at youth sailing events. And then once I was done doing that, I ran a inflatable boat dealership in Annapolis, Maryland for several years before becoming a yacht broker. And then recently stepped away from the day-to-day marine industry and spent some time in the marina management software business with one of Elite's competitors, and have joined Elite here in the last 6 weeks. Very excited to be a part of the team.
So what made you decide to join Elite Dynamics then, Jamie? Because that's a real broad kind of spectrum of where you've been kind of really boat focused. What made you think that's the job for me? That's where I want to go.
Really is. So the marine industry, it's a tough industry to step out of once you've spent 20 years in it. And it can be long hours, a lot of time outdoors, a lot of travel, a lot of time away from friends and family. So I was looking for a way to take all of the institutional knowledge that I've gained over the last 20 years and sort of pivot into a little bit of a different space. And the opportunity to come and work in the SaaS environment and pair that with my marina knowledge was a really interesting opportunity. And I think the product that Elite Dynamics offers inside of the space is a new and unique way of looking at everything. Having a true ERP system available that focuses solely on or extensively on the marina space, the marine space, is not something that really exists in the marketplace today. And the way that Elite has positioned itself, it is going to help marinas and marine businesses grow into the expectations of customers in the 21st century with the way that we're integrating AI and financial management and all the different pieces of technology that are becoming required to run a successful marine business.
I think we should just let Jamie talk this whole podcast.
No.
That was like a walk-in marketing piece. Keep going, Jamie. Just keep saying how good it is. I'm only kidding. That was really good though. So let's talk about like the 4th of July itself for maybe anybody
Sure.
listening in the UK, like for anyone that is, it's not just, it's not just a normal holiday. What it can be one of the most busiest times, but can you put a little bit of background towards it? Like what
Sure.
happens? What
For
do
the
you do?
U.S., this is our major summer holiday, especially in parts of the country that are more affected with seasonality. So if you look at places, specifically the New England region, some of the upper Midwest that really have a shortened boating season that may only go from the end of May till the middle of September, you're looking at maybe a 10 to 12 week boating season. So having this sort of right in the middle of that season, it's a lengthy holiday. Everybody in the U.S. has this as a bank holiday. So, and it's a time where families gather, groups of friends gather, and it generally is very focused on being in, near, and around the water. When we look at fireworks celebrations and the time of year and the way people choose to celebrate this holiday, it's very much water based. So from a marina perspective, that means increased usage, increased demand, and an expectation that everything's going to run smoothly.
And then, so obviously that actually sounds really fun. I kind of want to go. But what is the atmosphere like in a marina around the dock sides? What's kind of going on that typical weekend?
It's everybody that has something that floats is going to want it to work. They're going to expect it to work like it's always worked. And if we know Murphy's Law says if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And this is usually the time of year that that's going to happen. So
Yeah. So I
planning
guess
maintenance.
that
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just about to say that I guess the pressure for that weekend then starts probably a few weeks in beforehand, like
You would
everybody's booking
you
in.
would hope so, but as is the case in most other things in life, everybody's going to put this off to the last minute. So things like the 4th of July weekend can stress out staffs pretty quickly. The emergency maintenance calls. I forgot to put gas in the boat. My lights aren't working. So having the ability to plan for that sort of pressure, have the resources available to respond to that sort of pressure is vital in creating a really excellent customer experience for people that are using your marina space. So I think that's the biggest differentiator between a successful marina during a peak season and a peak holiday like this and those that tend to struggle.
Yeah. And is it people that are kind of based within the marina, or are they people that regular customers, or is there a lot of transients during that time, or is it a bit of everything?
There is a lot of transient as people are moving away from less central locations and coming into the bigger sort of downtown, higher density marina spaces to attend events that are going on in the bigger cities. Certainly there's a increased demand for transient space. There's an increased demand for resources in those places. So fuel docks are going to get busier. Dock stores are going to get busier. Ice machines are going to be taxed. Launch and retrieval at dry stack marinas are going to be stretched to their limit. So having a plan in place to deal with that increased demand is pretty critical. And the better the plan is and the more data and knowledge that marina staff have going into that, it frees up resources that can be allocated to those emergency requirements that pop up. So if you know what your dry stack launch window looks like and you have it planned out and you're able to leave space for those last minute requirements, or you have your long-term maintenance plans finished up 2 or 3 days before the weekend begins, it allows you time to respond to those oh my god moments from people that didn't plan ahead.
So for so sort of a normal customer, it's a holiday. Obviously, it's a holiday weekend. They all they care about is they want to get straight in. They want to get straight on the water and enjoy 250 years of America this year as well. But obviously, behind those scenes, there's a lot going on. Can you sort of talk us through what a typical busy holiday weekend is going to look like behind the scenes for these marina operators?
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing is going to be extended hours. People are going to start arriving early in the morning. So if somebody gets there at 7 o'clock in the morning, they're going to want their boat in the water. They're going to need fuel. They're going to need ice. They're going to need food and beverage. They're going to need help getting a bunch of people on and off boats that may not be comfortable getting on and off boats. So having extra staff on hand to help with that. There's going to be a demand for transient space. And while you may be fully booked, everybody's going to ask for that one more space. So knowing what you truly have available and allocated can make all the difference in not leaving, extra dollars on the table there. And when we look at throughout the day, that normal flow of boats maybe doubled or tripled to what a normal weekend looks like. And then when you're talking about people staying out on the water for fireworks celebrations and things like that, you're going to have boats returning to that marina from 10:30 all the way up till midnight. And so having staff allocated for those extended hours reduces the risk that there's an accident or can mitigate the results of a minor accident having staff on site versus not having staff on site. So I think having that, having a solid plan in place and having your resources allocated effectively for these couple of days is really important.
And I'm guessing you just said there's obviously a lot of people that maybe aren't familiar with actually boating, but 4th of July brings them out to maybe rent a boat for the day and go out onto the water. So how can Marina protect themselves against people like me who can't drive a boat, just going, do you know what, I fancy getting a boat for the weekend and just cracking on out?
Yeah, and that's a big change that we've seen, a big shift that we've seen in the marina space here in the U.S. recently. While individual boat ownership has declined a little bit or plateaued, the increase in number of boat rentals available and fractional ownership boat clubs and that sort of thing has increased dramatically. Having an education process in place, being able to pre-qualify these renters prior to them arriving is a big part of it. Having the ability to communicate with these people for the week leading up to their event, to their rental, allowing them to pre-book, being able to send them a knowledge test via an app or through an email, and establish that there is some sort of background and that they're going to be able to safely operate the resource and bring that resource back in one piece means that you're going to get through the weekend with less hassle, but you're also going to have that resource available to you for the rest of the summer. And there's a much lower risk of there being an accident or an event that would generally remove that resource for the rest of the summer or, slow down.
Hmm.
So
So I guess like there's an awful lot going on then, and it's probably busier than normal. Like definitely that sounds like an awful lot going on. So I have two kind of questions that have come out from that. Like, do a lot of marinas just kind of know? We've all worked on that marina, right? Where they just know what's going on. It's maybe not getting documented as much. It's just kind of happening very quickly. They're out there kind of, you know, who's going where, they just know. But is that particularly risky during a busy weekend like this? And is that where you could see like the adoption of tech a little bit more on a
sure.
marina?
Yeah. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, the more that you can plan out and have a process in place for the known entities during the weekend, the more resources you have allocated to respond to those last minute crises that pop up, because there's always going to be a last minute crisis that pops up. We're going to have a
Yeah.
double booked rental. There's going to be, somebody that forgot to schedule their launch or retrieval. There's going to be somebody that shows up and their running lights don't work on their boat and they need it fixed so that they can go out. That's always going to happen. The more planning that you can do leading up to that, and the more you can allocate resources, inform staff of where they need to be, when they need to be there, what their specific task is for that busy time, the easier it is to respond to those crises. So a platform like Elite that keeps everything in one overarching platform and gives you a single source of truth for where all the information you need to run a successful marina operation during a weekend like this means that you're far more likely to have extra resources available to respond to those moments of crisis. And I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest difference between what Elite can provide versus some of our competitors, is that it is a single point of truth. So all of your reservations are visible there, whether that be for rentals, for launch and retrievals for a dry stack, for transient slips, which slips may be available because seasonal holders are leaving for the weekend, and being able to take data from past 4th of July weekends. So being able to look at fuel sales numbers, being able to look at ice sale numbers, being able to see the average number of transient requests versus slips available allows you to plan in advance of something like this and have a general idea of what to expect well in advance of the weekend actually arriving.
Especially when you have, shameless plug here, 2 apps that work offline mode, so you can be out and about on the marina too, and it's easy. Only kidding.
Exactly. Being able to take some of the, being able to take some of the work and put it in the hands of the user. Anything that
Yeah.
you can do to automate and take manual tasks away from staff members means that those staff members are available to respond more quickly to what's needed at any given time during a busy weekend.
For customer service while they're right in front of you, and I think that's really important. And I think we've spoken about that before, Calum, when it comes to holiday parks. That's a perfect crossover about you want to make the most of that customer service and ensure that that's you're adopting tech to make sure you get the most of that. But
Exactly. And actually, wildly, Jamie, you've just mentioned ice there about 3 or 4 times, and I've just left a note for Lisa. Do we need an ice module? But actually, all these customers that are looking for ice, well, they can just request it through the Miley
there's
app.
a beautiful request module.
Have it sent straight out to the boat. Never let your beer go cold.
Come on. Well, if there's any beer left, because I hear we drank it all, but
we did. The Scottish came in and drank.
The Scottish are welcome to celebrate with us anytime.
But Mikkel, there's a couple of questions that I've just thought about. Like Jamie was saying, processes that maybe work really well during the quieter periods, but when they're stress tested like that, and it's a very busy weekend, you realize we've got some holes in there. So obviously, from your experience in different markets, have you seen that? What do busy periods tend to reveal about maybe a process or a system?
Yeah, so a little bit back to what Jamie also said, having procedures in place, trying to stay planned for what's coming up. And obviously, if you, as I tend to say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So with a really solid plan, if you do see any outliers, it's very critical and important to have those data patterns to go and analyze afterwards, because what you may experience this year around for 4th of July may be different next year around. So those patterns between the individual years are very important and critical, but also to measure if customer behavior is starting to change throughout the year that you wouldn't have noticed if you didn't have a collected platform with data being interlinked. And with, the 360-degree view of a customer is quite unique in such a situation, because it's also going to help your staff members. Remember, it's not just customer experience we're talking about, it's also staff experience. And the more information you can put in their hands, the better it is.
Yeah, I actually really like that. We always talk about the customer, but actually it's your staff experience as well that really does make the difference, because they get the most out of what they're getting. Well, you're going to get the most out of them, and they're going to get the most out of their day. But do you find, or I guess that means when systems are not joined together, when they're a little bit disconnected, it's probably more obvious when the demand is high, then would you say?
Yeah.
It's much easier, to have that system
Absolutely.
together.
It's almost like having a busy week and you're trying to execute everything in a single day. And therefore, the better prepared you are and the more visibility you have of the business. And like Jamie also said, when something is being requested, you know where it goes. So you don't have to manually take that service request and give it in the hands of someone. And remember, it may also be multi-site marinas that we're speaking with here. So, of course, they can learn from each other. So having the full visibility of all marinas, all groups, all customers within a single platform is quite unique to what we offer the market.
Yeah. And like, I suppose in your experience, the problems that maybe a disjointed system does, uncover during these busy periods, do they tend to show up during the reporting? Should people be following up on these things, or if they're able to, would you advise people to look at their data to follow up on maybe mishaps that have happened during that busy period, or just move on?
I would
which
definitely
most
go and
people.
analyze and try to improve processes because it may be the first time we've seen this happening, but it may not be the last time. So the more strict you would be on the assessment and the analytical part of your data, the better you will be prepared for the next time around. And there'll most definitely be outliers, and they would never appear again, but only data will tell. So the more time you spend to analyze that information, the better prepared you'll be for the next time.
So if we just look at, obviously peak periods are clearly operationally demanding, as we've heard, as we've gone through, but they're also very commercially important as a peak period. So Mikkel, how should operators be thinking about these moments commercially whilst they're in it?
Well, it's a massive opportunity. Obviously, multiple revenue streams. You are operating at peak capacity. That gives you the opportunity to go and cross-sell and upsell across those customers that are actually in the marina. But obviously, you need to see the visibility of where can we upsell, where can we cross-sell, how do we communicate with our customers while they're there. That's really the power of our platform, I would say, that releases that opportunity within this ecosystem.
So what separates operators who can capitalize on these peak demands from those who are simply just letting it go? They think everyone's arrived for the weekend. That's great. We've got the revenue. We're done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's always an opportunity to maximize even more and even beyond that. Like I said, it's even when you book a flight, you're being sold to constantly until the flight has arrived. And even sometimes afterwards, you're still being sold to. So I'm pretty sure along that customer journey and that customer experience, I'm pretty sure the audience is used to those opportunities of being sold to. I see that as something positive, as an opportunity and not something negative. Obviously, if you don't know where you have the opportunity to upsell and cross-sell, like Jamie said, if you don't have visibility, it's going to stress the employees, it's going to stress the staff because they know it's the peak season of when they make the money. So take the advantage.
I think that maybe Jamie from the US market. Do you think that marinas are starting to look a little bit more closely about how they can convert the demand during these high pressured moments, or when they're busy? Are they looking to cross sell and upsell? Do you think they're maybe looking at further revenue streams?
I think the market and the customers are starting to demand it. When you look at, like Mikkel said, the experience that you have in a commercial environment and pretty much everything else we do in our world, when you look at an Amazon, every time you open Amazon, it's going to tell you exactly what you're there to buy before you even know you're there to buy it. And it's going to provide you with a little icon that shows you the Amazon driver coming right to your front door. And payment methods are saved. And you're avoiding roadblocks to the sales process in that entire thing. When you purchase an airline ticket, when we make a hotel reservation, when we do anything else, we're getting this constant upsell. But what it really is the ability for the customer to curate their own experience during their holiday. And I think that's what the real demand is. And the marina space is really starting to take notice of that demand from customers to curate their own holiday experience, and being able to see what the options are both inside the marina and in the surrounding area. And anything that a marina space can do to help curate that experience is going to make them stand out in the market, and it's going to drive increased revenue. And any way that they can drive increased kind of ancillary revenue from the sides, that's a high margin, low cost driver for them. And especially when we talk about these very seasonal locations where they may only have a 4 or 5 month boating season, that can be the difference between opening their doors the following year or not, or being able to hire extra staff the following year or
Wow.
not, or make further improvements to the marina or not. So the ability to capture those additional revenue sources and allow their customer to curate their own experience, I think, are pretty critical right now.
That's really interesting. It sounds like, and so I've got two questions there. Like, would you say peak periods then are very intense in the US? Like, because that's like I can't even imagine saying to a holiday park or a marina in the UK, oh well, 4th of July wasn't very busy. We can't open again next year because we just didn't, we didn't make enough. And then my second question, you mentioned something about Amazon, you'd be able to track them on your phone. And it is something that I noticed, I think, when I'm speaking to our US customers, is that the adoption of tech, AI, things like that, is quite welcomed. Would you say that they're willing to take the two of them, like that automation, hand in hand, and
Yeah.
start using that to generate the most revenue?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, that may be a little bit of hyperbole that a business may not be able to open their doors the next year, but the reality is that for some of these, and the U.S. is a huge place, right? Essentially, the U.S. is the size of Europe. So
Yeah,
from a
pretty
seasonality
big.
standpoint, the seasonality of a business is going to be very different in Maine to what it is in San Diego, California, right? San Diego sees 360 days of sunshine a year, and it's always 75 degrees and sunny. So where in Maine, it starts snowing the first week of October, and it may not be warm enough to put a boat in the water until the last week of May or the first week of June. So the need to maximize revenue during peak season is certainly felt at places where that season is shortened. Um, and having the tools to train staff that may only be there for 8 to 10 weeks a year is very critical. And being able to make sure that every customer that comes through that business during that peak season, they're being able to extract the maximum amount of revenue from is the way that they continue and to grow their business. So I think it is dependent on what the season really is, but the shorter that season is, the more critical it is to be able to extract the maximum amount of revenue from each customer that comes through the door.
Yeah. I
As
think that's
far
something that we just don't consider. Sorry, I interrupted
right,
you there, but it's blowing my mind how you have to think about one end of the country to the other is a completely different,
it's a big place.
yeah, it's pretty big, yeah.
We're one country, but if you look at our 50 states, it's 50 somewhat independently governed entities within the country. And, I was talking to Mikkel last week about a couple of our clients up in the Pacific Northwest. We have a deciduous rainforest in the Northwest of the United States. We have a desert in the Southwest of the United States. We have plains in the middle of the country. We've got beautiful, rocky, very Northern European-esque coastlines in the New England area. And then you've got these almost Caribbean-esque beaches and white sand beaches and year-round marina spaces in the southeast of the United States. So there's hundreds of different business types and hundreds of different boating seasons, and demand differs amongst all of them. So it's a big industry, and there's a lot of different factors that play into the way that these marinas operate. At the end of the day, they're all trying to maximize their revenue per customer, and anything that they can use to do that is going to help them run their businesses better. And then as far as technology adoption, I think here in the US, we're much more open to it. We're much more free in the way that we share our personal information. We are I think we're much more demanding in having that luxury experience. We want to be curated too. We want to have the people that we're interacting with know in advance of what our expectations are. And I think we want those expectations met to the best of any company's ability. We're much more discerning in how we spend our money in that way. There's an expectation that if we are going to spend the money on a big vacation, a big holiday, that the level of service is going to match that spend. And we're very free with the way that we are willing to separate ourselves with our personal data and allow these companies to know exactly what we're doing. There's not much of a second thought about sharing that information and being curated too. So
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. But I think like look if we maybe look apart from the 4th of July, we've already started that. But if we
sure.
come back to the name of the episode, what's next for American marinas? What do you think they're going to want to start doing over the next few years? And I think I'd like to Jamie and Mikkel both to kind of have an opinion on this because it's an interesting question where we see everybody going.
Well, there's no doubt with the customers that we have and prospects that we're speaking with that it's been a decade of point solutions, and I do personally believe that it's because no solution captured it all. So I do foresee that we're going to see a decade now coming up where data is going to be more important and more critical. And even some of the industries events that we've been at, customers are starting to request and embrace AI. And as we probably all know on this call, that AI is a critical element, but it only works if you have a solid data foundation. So there's quite a bit of work to be done before you release AI and you capture all the value of AI. So I think technology is working with us, and like Jamie said, the Americans are very tech adoptive. So I do really foresee that it's going to pick up quite a lot.
Yeah, and we're seeing in the U.S. in the marina space right now is this rather large push towards larger marina groups and this concentration of larger owners building these big marina groups and combining what have traditionally been family-owned businesses. So as we see that, the demand for an enterprise resource software is going to grow as what has traditionally been single location, maybe one or two revenue streams within that location move to these multi-location, multi-revenue stream businesses. The ability to gather all that data that's going to be required to provide the customer experience is the need for that is growing, and there's not traditionally been an application available in the marketplace specifically tailored to the marine industry prior to what Elite offers. So I think it's a unique time in the U.S. marina space, and I think Elite offers a very unique answer to the question that's starting to be raised across the industry.
Yeah. And I think then that kind of ties into another question about why would you choose elite marinas if you're speaking to kind of prospects out in the US? Why would you say this is the solution for you?
As
It's
we
amazing, obviously, but like
Sure.
we need some
Yeah,
more.
and right. And so, like Mikkel said, as we move into a more AI driven space, as we move into a more enterprise resource space, the ability to collect data, analyze data, and use that data in real time to curate a customer experience, to curate a business experience internally, to be able to report to private equity, to shareholders, to stakeholders, is becoming more critical. And I think Elite right now is uniquely positioned in that it is truly the only ERP system that has a specifically tailored module for marinas and marine businesses to be able to feed that into a higher level platform and allow for that business intelligence to be gathered and analyzed and then put into practice.
And then I think Mikkel, what about yourself?
Yeah, there's no doubt that compared to some of the industries that I worked with before, I would say we've seen the pattern before. Customers are starting to request and almost demand more. So there's no doubt that what we're bringing to the market now is not just a back office application or a booking system. It's actually a fully fledged customer experience platform which marinas can go and leverage from day one. It is truly interconnected. It's not like we get tons of questions like, how does this integrate? It is truly embedded. It's one platform. It's one Microsoft ecosystem where we took all the relevant components that we believe are relevant for the marine industry, and then we spiced it up with our domain expertise. That's the secret sauce.
The secret sauce. I like that. I'm going to use that. Well, I think that's a lot that we've covered today, and I could talk about this for ages because I find it interesting. But I think there is only one more thing left to say, and that's to Jamie and everybody in the US to have a very happy 4th of July.
Thank you very much, Lisa. We're pretty excited about it, and hopefully this one goes off without a hitch, just like they have for 250 years now. So
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you next time on From Pitch to Pontoon. Bye bye.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
thanks so much, everyone.